National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice. And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. We're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals from Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And of course, with me today, and if you missed yesterday's show, you missed Maria. Maria, welcome back to our show. Maria Umbach from Maddock Douglas, an agency of innovation. I just want to say innovation because it sounds so breathalyzing. Innovation. You know,
don't worry, there won't be any tests. All
right, no tests. Although, if you want to take a test after our show, think of all the things that Maria talked about yesterday on our show. And if you want to watch it, hop back out on Vimeo, our Vimeo account, YouTube, of course, always, brokersalliance.com. On our archive section of our homepage, just click on it and you'll see Maria's Monday show if you missed it. Today, we're talking about bizarre things again. And I love the title of this segment. If I had to make segment titles, and I usually don't try to categorize things, but are you talking to me? And I'm thinking about, don't be dogging me, right? Are you talking to me?
Talking to the hand.
Yeah, talk to the hand. So when we're talking about the language of insurance and talking about creating irrelevance, I mean, I feel like that's a little slap and a chastisement on your part because we are kind of irrelevant.
Right, and I have to admit I'm part of the problem. I've been in the industry a long, long time, but this is now become a passion. But yes, language is creating irrelevance. It's not the whole picture, but it's a big piece of it.
Well, I'm always looking at ways, because I believe in social media, I believe in writing articles, we're trying to always promote it, and why? So that our producers can actually have a good handle on selling whatever products that we do, life insurance being our flagship product. But I'm looking at an idea like, are you talking to me, the client? If I heard a client say that to me, I would be so embarrassed. I would be embarrassed.
Right, and they wouldn't say it. They would just walk away, which is why,
maybe even worse.
Yeah.
Is maybe indifference or just not even responding.
Right, and especially with younger generations. So with each passing generation, this issue, this gap, is getting worse. I've
noticed a thing that we had. I had Dr. Barb Provost on our show about a couple months back, and I noticed that we were engaging on how to talk to World War II survivor widows who are now running the show with their daughters helping in the long-term care facility that mother's in.
Right.
And here was a stunning stat. 78% of advisors are fired by those two women.
I believe it.
Oh my goodness. How irrelevant were they in their relationship? How they weren't even talking to these gals when they were the advisor.
Right. And it's part of what we were talking about in the last show about condescending tone. And that's not necessarily being done on purpose. Don't get me wrong. Right. Nobody's out there doing that. But unconsciously, they're talking downward.
When I think of I teach for a living. Right. I'm teaching to our producers. I can't imagine trying to get into a podium position and being pedantic, talking down, being demeaning. I want them to get it. I want them to enjoy what they're hearing. Right. And you say it's not intentional. All right, let's just say that for motivational sake, it isn't. But then how can I correct it if I am? Because you're suggesting that a bulk of our audience, our producers, our salespeople, are actually talking down to the consumer.
Right. There are, and that's tone and language are related, but they're two different things. The tone piece of it really has to do with the typical. What is it that when an advisor brings somebody in to start to talk to them about their situation that ultimately leads them to, let's say, a life insurance sale or a long-term care sale or whatever it might be. They may ask questions or make statements in such a way that is actually talking down, but they don't even realize it because they've been trained to do that.
Do you have an example?
Like, say, for example, do you care about your family, or don't you care? Like, if you ask questions in a way that sort of backs someone into a corner to have to answer in a certain way, that will feel like manipulative and and talking down. Or if you want to say something, let me tell you a story. Or I can't answer your question until I know a lot more about you. There's that way that people draw information out of a prospect can feel that way, even though it's not intentional, and that's not the outcome that people are looking for. They have to be able to listen a lot more.
I'm wondering, especially for us who have been around a long time and have experience on our side, which should be a good thing, but maybe not that great sometimes because we talk past a person. That's why I could see the consumer saying to me, "Are you talking to me? Because it sounds like you're talking past me."
And what are you saying? Are you using words that maybe I don't understand, or you expect me to understand? And then when I fall into the trap of I don't really understand that, and then you put me into a place where now I have no choice but to do what you tell me to do.
On our retail show, The Quest for Financial Freedom, we fine our guests every time they use an acronym on the air.
Good.
We find them because we know that we have people listening to our show trying to learn. And if we use acronyms that are specific and germane only to our industry, how's the consumer going to get that?
Absolutely.
And I remember going in the other day, I went into my dentist, and every word he used was very specific to dentistry.
Right.
I had no idea what he just told me.
Just say, here's how smart I am. I'm going to put a number 2 in that second bicuspid. Well, who cares, right?
I don't. I don't. In fact, actually, I hate going to the dentist. But
I love it personally. I'm a big fan.
Well, that's because you have traded in your illegal pharmaceuticals for that new gas they give you.
That's absolutely right.
But Maria, I'm struggling because our producers want to get this.
Right.
They want to get this. They do. And like you said, I believe you. The vast majority, it is unintentional. And we want to learn how to communicate because I want to learn how to close again. I want to know how to open again.
Right.
I want to know what's their concerns. How can I play to their natural questions?
Right. And that would be listening, obviously. And you said something about I want to close. Try not to think, especially when dealing with younger generations and with women in particular, try not to think as I got to close this sale. I've got to get this done in two visits or 3 visits or whatever it might be. Start with where the listening and where the problems are. I mean, that's part of what will help. But going back to language, which is what we talked about earlier, there are many terms that we use routinely in the insurance business that are that kind of "are you talking to me" reaction. One of them I'm amused by, particularly with younger generations, is the word protection. Okay, we use protection all the time in conversations about life insurance or in planning and advising. And more young people associate the word protection with birth control than they do with insurance, which is kind of fun.
Okay, now we've went past the business insurance zones. We're now talking about protection in a way that I haven't thought about in a long time. I guess I've been in the industry too long.
It's not like in context they don't get it, but if there is a registering of a Beavis and Butthead moment as you're saying a certain word, that automatically comes up as irrelevant. It's like, okay, so my grandpa's talking to me right now, or my dad's talking to me right now, and I'm not hearing this the way that I would normally hear it, which again, describe what it does.
I just said to one of my staff members, I said, "We'll keep this on the QT." And my young Gen Y staff members looked at me and said, "What?"
Yeah.
And I explained what keeping it on the QT was. She says, "No, it's keeping it on the DL."
Yeah.
I was like, talk about Gen Y. And listen, they're the next generation for sales. And we are totally not ready to talk to them.
Not ready at all. I mean, in fact, words like, for example, policy. Now that's an easy one to kind of flip around because I hear the best advisors using words like contract and whatnot else as opposed to policy. But the word policy, especially to young people, sounds more like a rule. Like a rule, something that they don't want to follow. Like, it's not our policy to allow you to wear sneakers to work. Or it's not our policy to let you take back that dress after you've worn it. That's a rule. That's a procedure. That's something that they don't want to actually follow. So policy, as in an insurance contract, doesn't. Again, in context, they will get it. They will understand it. But if it's registering in the back of their mind as something else, there's a chipping away at relevance that's happening in the everyday.
Well, how would I substitute? What would be something that a Gen Yer would understand? Instead of using the word policy, what could I use as a...
You say contract, let's say. A contract. Because a contract sounds like it's a little bit more... we're equals in that. We're creating a contract together. A policy sounds like, we have this policy and you will follow it. And that's actually the way that the insurance industry created that word, because there was a lot of deference to the institution when the insurance industry created the language that we use today. And today's consumer just doesn't have any tolerance for anything that doesn't put them at the center. Used to be the company at the center, right?
Well, it is tough to get back to consumer-centric thinking.
Right.
Because we're so used to having everybody orbit around us, especially guys, male,
Right. Okay.
baby boomer. I just have to confess, the whole ARP nation is on overdrive on this issue.
Right.
So how can I redirect my orbit to be more consumer-centric and use the communication skill sets that they are already adopting, that they're,
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking, not that I have to do a rap song while I'm selling insurance, although that is intriguing, I have to say.
It sounds fun.
It is fun. We'll have to do that offline tonight. And we go to, and of course, so Maria's in town because she's doing a huge event at NIALBA, National Association of Independent Brokers. What is it? National Association of Independent
Life Brokerage Agencies.
Yes. And she's in town to be one of our major speakers there, and that's why we have her on. It's so perfect for her convenience. But when I want to learn how to, our producers want to learn how to engage our clients in the right way. I'd like to dump the word policy if I thought contract not only was much more coherent, but it actually said what I'm doing.
Right. And the word annuity, we tested a whole bunch of words and phrases, okay? So the word annuity as an example, and we put it up against other phrases that are actually not real, but they mean the same thing and they could be used as a substitute. Income stream, first of all, it can't even define annuity. If you ask them what an annuity is, they can't even.
Well, wait a minute, let's just really be honest here. If we did a survey among our attendees of this show right now, our producers watching this, I wonder how many could actually write a compliant definition of what annuity is, and then on top of that, forget the compliance for a moment, then explain it to me. What is it?
Right. So you're right. So okay, so it's all over. It's pervasive.
Yes.
So looking at those words and saying, okay, instead of using the technical jargon of what they are, say what they do. So disability income insurance. Now that one is a little bit more intuitive, but disability income was not the number one choice. It was income protection. You're protecting your actual wage. Your.
In fact, I saw
earnings.
a phrase out on Google the other day that said paycheck protection.
Paycheck protection.
I got that.
Gotta love that.
I mean, if I did not know what was going on, I got it on the first pass.
If you want to ask somebody, would you rather have disability income insurance or paycheck protection insurance, which do you think that they choose?
Well, the consumer should go right to the paycheck.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I like my
paycheck.
I love my paycheck.
I want to protect my paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally get this.
Yeah.
And I want us, it's kind of like when I started shortening my URLs, remember, I was shortening them because for more space. Right. Then I found out you get if you leave them open.
Because people know how to.
Because it describes what you're trying to say.
Trying to say, exactly.
I'm on a learning curve today on my own show. I can't believe it. We're getting schooled today by Maria Umbach from Maddock Douglas. Unbelievable. I have to say, it's a new day dawning. Hey, you're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. You can email me at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or call 1-800-290-7226, my extension 147. And coming up in the next segment, Maria and I are going to go global on how robotic we can be, all after the break.
Banner Life Insurance Company and its subsidiary, William Penn Life Insurance Company of New York, comprise the Legal & General America companies, part of the International Legal & General Group, one of the largest insurance companies in the world. Now, Legal & General America is one of the top-rated insurance companies in America, with one of the strongest financial balance sheet among its peers. Legal & General America is a major player in guaranteed term and guaranteed universal life, and consistently ranks among the best carriers in almost every product spreadsheet. Legal & General America's product line of Guaranteed Universal Life endows at the maturity date, while most carriers' cash values just zero out. You know the reputation of Banner? Now know the value of LGA, Legal & General America. The power to protect, the power to preserve, the power to serve their policyholders. That's Legal & General America.
Welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant, your host, insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. Remember, before moving forward with any of the strategies or ideas you hear on the show, always check in and get approval from your CPA, your attorney, and of course, your broker-dealer compliance department. You can call me toll-free, 1-800-290-7226, extension 147 for any of your quotes or questions on life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, and group pension plans. Hey, it's not what I know, it's who I know, and that's why I have Maria on our show. And now we're talking about kind of going robotic. Am I smarter than a robot? Now I feel psychotic. I have to say, if you want to watch and look at anything she has, just hop out to her site, www.soldnotbought.com. And Maria's got a ton of things out there for you. A lot of it's free. Please enjoy it. Maria, when I look at this thing of robotic, the very first time when I saw this, and I saw this on your site, this phrase, I thought of Michael Jackson doing his, whatever.
I thought of that too, actually.
The first time you said
Thriller.
it. And I thought to myself, oh yeah, that robotic thing was in. And what's really great is if you're Caucasian like I am and you can do it, like I was the edge in the 80s. I could do this, right? Now I'm thinking about, am I smarter than a robot? And I'm thinking of that show we're watching on television. Am I smarter than a fifth grader? I have to tell you, I never get past the fourth level. I'm just like crushed. Right. And, because I guess, did I not learn? Did those nuns not teach me right? And I can't win. When you talk about it though, are you smarter? What are you trying to tell us?
Well, this is part of the same study that we talked about in the last show around language and emotion and how consumers engage with people in our industry. And one of the sections in that survey was how people have a love-hate sort of relationship with advisors, agents, brokers, whatever terminology you want to use there. And particularly, again, we're focused on this gap that keeps widening with every passing generation. I think we're doing okay in the land of the boomers. Not great, but okay, good enough. X is getting worse, and Y is terrible. So we asked to get feedback, terms. We gave them a bunch of terms to use to describe insurance agents. And we got some interesting results, and robotic was one of them. So at least 30% of Gen Y felt that agents and brokers behave in a very robotic way. Only 37% were described as intelligent, okay? 35% as consultative, 15% as caring, and ouch, only 8% as unbiased.
Well, what do they mean by that?
They mean they're mostly biased. They want you to make certain decisions that are not necessarily in their best interest. They're biased either towards.
How is the consumer picking up on that?
Well, that's the perception out there. That's the perception. So again, I don't necessarily. This is not about punching everybody in the stomach. This is about, here's the reality that we're dealing with. The reason why we've taken such a big interest in this whole category is because we're truly flirting with the uninterested. This is the banner that we talk about all the time in the sold not bought categories.
Well, actually, I think that was one of my first articles I read. I love that idea. When I first read this, I have to say, a little confession time on the Business Insurance Zone. When I heard flirting with the uninterested, that was kind of like my mantra during high school dating years.
Well, that's where that's where the relevance comes in, because this is like that. We're talking to we are talking to a group of consumers, and that over time is getting more and more uninterested in what we do. Now, there is a significant amount of frustration and confusion and anxiety around the category, which sounds bad, but at least people are engaged. They're interested in getting more information, but there's an increasing number of people who are considering the category boring. Okay, so boredom is our biggest enemy moving forward, particularly with Gen Y. That's where talk to the hand comes in. And I just did an article in Life Insurance Selling back in May that was on this very subject, and they chose a really great photo to use in the article. It was of a young Gen Y woman with her eyes rolled back in her head like this, like whatever. That's the image, and that's our biggest enemy, more so than the frustration that we cause as an industry, being very highly technical and confusing.
I totally get this, because that's why our show is probably based on breaking the boredom cycle.
Right.
We're trying to do something. When we talk about product, even on this show, when we do heavy spreadsheet grid mentality, and we're talking about it sounds like we're talking about the NFL. We're trying to rank carriers. We're trying to make it exciting. We're trying to bring it up to a place where it's relevant. It's like somebody said, who's in your NFL pool? And I was trying to convert that, saying, who's on my spreadsheet grid.
Right,
You know,
right.
you know, I'm trying to make it relevant. You know, because it's so boring. You know,
Right.
And that's part of our shows. I think part of our show's allure. I think it's part of social media allure, right? And I think people like you, who people are waking up to. Oh my gosh, Maria's creative. She's really got a handle on this. She can escort us through the unknown area. And this is totally unknown to most of our producers. I have to say, I had to have a learning curve experience myself. I have to graduate. I wasn't even using the landing page language of Google. I've been writing for 20 plus years, and I'm thinking, why isn't my stuff showing up on the first 5 pages? I had to change the way I thought. I had to change the way I talked. I could not believe I had to reinvent. It was like learning almost a foreign language.
Right. And you have to be able to say things that are really understand what's relevant to the target audience that you're looking for, as opposed to just pushing out the message that's your own agenda. And when it comes to the thing that the industry is woefully lacking, and that includes, I think that the distribution, people that are involved in the sale are closer to it than, let's say, carriers are. But even still, they're still in that what we call it being inside the jar. Okay, and you can't read your own label when you're sitting inside the jar.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so at Maddock Douglas, we say that all the time, because oftentimes you need people who are outside the jar to tell you what it says on that label.
Now, a lot of your consulting that you have, Maddock Douglas, has a lot to do with actually addressing carriers, not producers.
Oh, right.
I mean, that's your area of expertise.
That is our area of expertise, and the producers benefit from that. But what's interesting is that we're getting quite the following from the producer audience, from people who can learn from the things that we're doing for those carriers. And so everybody's sharing in that, and it actually helps everybody.
Again, if you've never been out on Maria's site, www.soldnotbought. I love that. Soldnotbought.
I was surprised that wasn't taken. It's a phrase that we use in the industry
I can't believe
for
we
100
didn't
years.
take it.
Sorry.
Okay, doggone it. But I'm thinking that, if carriers are coming in and trying to learn from you, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, what kind of pushback are you getting from these guys? Because we're talking about the Grey Poupon Society. I mean, I mean, how bad is it?
Sometimes it can be uncomfortable for certain people who are not able to listen to this message with an objective point of view, and it's part of our job to make people uncomfortable. But that's part of reading the label when you're sitting inside the jar. I mean, I'm in a jar too. You're in a jar. Anybody who's been doing something longer than 6 months or a year is in some kind of a jar. You know where all the pitfalls are. You basically become an expert. So when you're trying to reinvent or do something that's going to have a different result, you need to have outside perspective on that. And one of the areas that the industry is lacking in is consumer insight, really understanding what the consumer is thinking and feeling. Instead, what we do is, when we don't see our results going in the direction we want them to do, we keep doing what we used to do harder, faster, and more often in order to get that result. And that's the pushing.
I see when you say that, I see the pushing, I see defaulting to old habits. I don't know new ones to approach or adopt. So I punt. I go back to what I know for sure. I'll just do it more. Yes. In fact, actually, I'm tired of living in the indigenous land of carrier modeling, because really, I think we picked this all up from the home office. Whatever we're doing outside as producers, well, the language has to be compliant, so we have to go down that road.
So that's part of where robotic probably starts.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's hard. It takes a lot of energy and work to break out of that. But the carriers want to partner with the producers in the field just as much as the other way around.
Well, they say that.
Hey, I was on that side for a long time. I know it's true. I know it's true. I feel like that way all the time. But for the carriers that are really serious about about getting the results, they want it. They want to do that.
I have to confess, and I say this with all due respect, I have great carrier relationships with several of our carriers and our core partners, but sometimes they talk past me.
All right, of course.
They're talking past us in the IMO.
They're in their own jar, and you're in a different jar. And all the ones that are attending this NAILVA meeting that's down the road here this week are all here for that same reason, to get closer and develop more relationships with their partners.
And I bet you 90% of, instead of relational, they will be talking about their product and how to hawk it more than they will be about getting to know you. Right.
Well, some yes and some possibly not. I mean, we're starting to see a real wake-up call in the industry on the carrier side. There's a lot of receptivity.
Sales are flat.
Or declining, depending on where you're sitting, right? And there's this whole befuddling middle market that nobody can seem to crack the code on, and that's where there's a wake up call towards the consumer insight, and that's what we're all about is figuring.
Well, let's say I'm hearing what you're saying. Yeah. I don't want to be an automaton anymore. I don't want to be a robot, right? I'm buying what you're saying. Yeah. I have to break out of automation.
Right.
my defaultness, right?
Right.
It's kind of like I'm in this rut, which is kind of like a grave.
Yeah.
With, what is that? What's the definition of a rut? A grave with the ends kicked out.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm in this rut, right?
Yeah.
And I can't get out of my rut. So
Okay.
get me out of my rut and show me the new way. What's the new model?
Okay. Well, the way to get out of the rut is, as we said, get out of the jar. Bring in outsiders, outside of your profession, outside of your industry, and maybe in the business community around you, to ask them the question about how they perceive what you're doing and how they perceive your value proposition, or how they perceive your sales pitch, whatever it might be, and ask them for their honest feedback. We do that in a very regimented way with outsiders that come from different industries that are at the top of their game in things that are related. But you can do this with your own communities, or try your conversations with clients on a 10-year-old or your grandmother. Try that and see how they respond to it. And if they're going, I get that, fantastic. If they're going, I don't get it, and they're going to be honest with you, right?
Honesty is a very tough thing to get in our industry right now, I have to say.
Yeah.
And the surveys I see off seminars are generally pretty good. But the bathroom, when you go to the bathroom and hear the real
Bingo.
traffic, I really hear it. Well, listen, we're going to have you back tomorrow again, Maria. We want to make sure you're all listening to what we're doing. Marie, I don't know what to say. I'm getting schooled on my own show. Remember, you can view and download our show and the entire series in HD 1080p on our on-demand video archive section, located on our homepage at www.brokersalliance.com and on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This is Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone. The Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, from the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services, to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Call Brokers Alliance.